It seems like the Democratic leadership in New York is purposefully burning the whole place to the ground. New York City has been suffering from some time. First there was COVID, then there was mass rioting. Yet for some reason, Bill de Blasio sides with the riots. I mean, not overtly like telling people to go out and riot, but he goes and marches with these people. He supports it. He paints their message. And then what do we get? Destroyed businesses from COVID, destroyed businesses from riots. Then we get Andrew Cuomo putting sick COVID patients into nursing homes, resulting in the death of 6,500 people. Now they've set up checkpoints around Manhattan. There's a 14-day quarantine and a $10,000 fine for anybody who breaks that quarantine, guaranteeing that tourists will not come. And the end result, property values are tanking. People are already fleeing the city, leaving empty buildings behind. Tourists won't come. They're facing a $30 billion budget shortfall. And my question is, why? Well, I speculated in the past, maybe it's just ineptitude. They have no idea what they're doing. Bill de Blasio now mocking the wealthy as they flee while Andrew Cuomo begs them to stay because they need their money. But Bill de Blasio, wow, he calls them fair weather friends. Why would he do this? So I started to speculate. Maybe what's going to happen is, once everyone flees and leaves these empty, worthless properties, the prices tank, the rich people come in, buy up all the buildings. Then once the economy recovers, now they own large swaths of the city. Yeah, it appears that's actually the case, only it's coming from the government. We're now learning what may be the true motive of Bill de Blasio. Why is he putting homeless people in luxury hotels? Why is he putting convicted offenders near playgrounds? Why would he do this? It's going to destroy the economy. It's going to destroy property value. It's going to drive people out. And there it is. De Blasio reveals he wants to buy empty NYC buildings and turn them into affordable housing after moving 13,000 homeless into hotels for more than $2 million a night and shaming rich residents who left to escape COVID-19 as fair weather friends. It would seem that Bill de Blasio has a radical agenda. He's burning this city to the ground on purpose so he can buy up the buildings and put poor people in them. Okay, listen, I'm all about helping the poor, setting up shelters and low-income housing. I'm just not all about the authoritarian dictatorship style of destroying people's lives and forcing them to flee. That's evil, man. We're trying to work together to improve everybody's lives. And de Blasio, he actually is causing pain and suffering to some people for other people. Now the left will argue, I don't care. They'll say things like, I don't care about the rich. So what? They'll be fine. And you know what? To an extent, yeah, I agree. I mean, look, in the end, if we can get homeless people, shelter and take care of them and give them services to make sure we can deal with this problem, that's okay. That's a good thing. What you got to understand, though, is just putting homeless people in a building doesn't solve any problems. What Bill de Blasio is doing is he is destroying the city's economy, which will hurt the middle class more when there's no jobs and nowhere to work and there's no tax revenue. Services are gone, so that he can sweep the problem under the rug. He's not actually trying to do anything other than burn it all down and sweep the problem under the rug. Putting homeless people in houses is not a long-term solution and does not address what caused the homelessness in the first place. Mayor Bill de Blasio from the Daily Mail on Friday revealed a plan to buy properties around the city and turn them into permanent affordable housing after moving more than 10,000 homeless people into hotels during the COVID-19 pandemic and shaming rich residents who have left the city as fair weather friends. At a press conference on Friday, he did not say which type of buildings the city had its eye on, and the city is refusing to give more details, citing privacy concerns. De Blasio only said there was an opportunity to get creative now when it comes to finding housing for New York's homeless. It presents a stark scenario for landlords or building owners who may be struggling to collect rent from current tenants, many of whom, both commercial and residential, have absconded. The homeless in hotels scheme set up by de Blasio is one of many components to an escalating downward change in the city. A downward change. Let me help you out. Death spiral. The people who pay the taxes are gone. The tax base of New York has been completely eroded. Who is going to pay for the utilities now? Who is going to pay for the water, for the MTA? The middle class and the lower class will suffer the most so that Bill de Blasio, the city, can snatch up all these buildings. Now, maybe Bill DeBlasio wants to buy these. Is that a plan for the city? Turn around. Let's see. Bill DeBlasio on Friday revealed a plan to buy properties around the city and turn them into affordable housing. So it seems like a government effort, though I wouldn't put it past DeBlasio to personally buy buildings, considering he is himself a landlord. This dude is not some utopian hero for the left. He's not even progressive. He's a property owner. He's a capitalist, and he is unrepentant. You see, what he does is the worst aspects of it. Pretend to be a hero for the left, use that to destroy people's lives, and then he can buy all of these properties on the cheap. Amazing. Once the price gets jacked up, he'll sell them at a premium. Many of New York's wealthy residents fled months ago, taking their disposable income and their tax dollars with them, and there are fears they may never come back. Crime is on the up, but de Blasio has stripped the police force of $1 billion in response to Black Lives Matter protests. Think about it. He took away the anti-crime unit. Crime is skyrocketing. He puts convicted criminals and homeless people in luxury hotels. Now the wealthy flee. Now he's going to buy the property up. You know, is this the plot of RoboCop? Welcome to r/RoboCop on Reddit, where they posted this meme. Remember in RoboCop movies when corporate America aids criminals and helps incite riots so they can lower property values and buy up the city while privatizing that city's police force? Haha, science fiction is crazy. Yeah. Now about that. Outrage as Manhattan's district attorney drops the felony charge against BLM leader accused of assaulting an NYPD cop. Now, why would they go and do that? Why would the district attorney say you are free to... Okay, I'll calm down. They're dropping it from a felony to a misdemeanor. But one of the big questions that's been, floating around for a minute is why the district attorneys in all these places keep releasing the criminals back on the street. Why are they releasing the criminals from the prisons? I'll tell you what, man. I think we can only speculate, but Bill DeBlasio wants to buy up these cheap properties. Could it be that by releasing prisoners, allowing rioters to destroy your businesses, releasing these criminals back onto the street, destroys the property value of a city? And then once they own the cheap property, they'll gentrify everything back up, boot out the poor people, and they'll own everything. Almost everything. Some retailers and restaurants have been forced to close permanently, and those who are hanging on face continuously changing and difficult rules, like having to sell substantial amounts of food to customers to avoid crowds gathering. De Blasio and Cuomo are enforcing checkpoints to stop tourists from 35 COVID hotspot states from entering the city without quarantining for 14 days too. Now there's no tourist revenue, and they're doing everything to make sure there won't be. They are destroying the small business. Earlier this year, it emerged that 139 struggling hotels are taking in homeless people to avoid deathly COVID-19 breakouts in shelters. The effort is being mostly paid for by FEMA, but 25% of it's coming from the city's shrinking budget. It brings some cash to the struggling hotels, which were decimated by the pandemic. Through the program, they take $175 per person per night. With more than 13,000 homeless currently being housed in hotels is more than $2.275 million, according to anonymous city sources who have been quoted. Here's some So here's some photos of all the just drug use, homelessness. It's crazy. The crazy thing to me is that they put the homeless people in these hotels, and the homeless people just walk outside and start doing drugs on the sidewalk. My friends, I used to work for a homeless shelter. I know a lot about the problem. The problem is not that these people... There's this assumption among the far left that homeless people are just downtrodden individuals who need help being lifted back up. I'm sorry, but that's just not the reality. There are real people who are hardworking, good Americans who became homeless because of economic circumstances. There are many, but it's a small percentage. Many of the homeless people I encountered working for a homeless shelter, I was a director, many of them wanted to be homeless. Many of them chose to be homeless and would resist any and all efforts to bring them to the shelter and help them get their life in order. They were happy doing what they were doing. Many of them did drugs, but many of them are also mentally ill. A mentally ill person can't just be placed into an apartment building. They need help living, finding food, staying clean and sober and healthy. Some of these people require medication. The answer isn't simply sweep it under the rug like Bill DeBlasio would do. We can see this photo. It says large numbers of homeless men have been moved into 3 hotels, as we know, and there's photos. Now, I think it's silly to assume all of these photos are all homeless guys. I mean, these do not look like homeless people. What are you doing, Daily Mail? Now, this does. So the question, I wonder why, if these people are being moved in these areas, why they're just going out into the street. But there it is, man. On Friday, after wealthy residents on the Upper West Side took to social media in droves to complain about homeless people from 3 of the hotels terrorizing their streets with urine, loitering, and doing drugs, DeBlasio said the system was not permanent, but would likely continue until there is a vaccine, something that is still months away. How insane. I can't believe it, man. I mean, I can't believe it, to be honest. 15 days to slow the spread. We're not going to be able to stop everybody from getting COVID. In fact, we aren't going to be able to stop anybody from getting it, but we can slow the spread so the hospitals don't get overwhelmed. Remember that. Now we're going to stop it, period. They are spitting in your face. Bill DeBlasio is a criminal who used taxpayer money against the law to paint a political slogan and then used the NYPD to protect it. Shame on those cops for helping Bill DeBlasio with this political re-election campaign. But I say at the end of the day, it's a leadership problem. The goal here continues to be to deal with the short term, which let's say 6 months-ish, while we are dealing with this crisis until people are vaccinated. Once we get out of that, we're going to move out of hotels and go back into the shelter system. We're going to constantly try to reduce the number of people in shelters. We're going to have an opportunity here to be creative and get people into other better housing. He was asked if the city would consider turning the hotels into permanent housing, and answered vaguely, there are buildings we control already. That's where we're looking to, or want to control or purchase, where we're looking to do permanent, affordable housing. Man, do not invest in New York. Anybody who's dumb enough to buy up these cheap properties now that people are fleeing, you got to be nuts, man. Because I'll tell you what you're going to get with these people in the next 10 years. It's going to be way worse. They're going to have more permanent shelters. They're going to do more of what they're already doing to destroy the city. A spokesman for the mayor's office later insisted the hotels would not become permanent shelters, but they refused to disclose which types of buildings he was talking about out of privacy concerns. They said the city would be asking for reimbursement from the federal government for the money spent on placing the homeless in hotels because it was an emergency expense. And there it is. I do not live in New York, but they expect me to contribute to pay for it. Man, I love it, huh? The city is also refusing to release the list of the 139 hotels where the homeless are currently being cared for. On the Upper West Side, remaining residents are now taking to social media to share photographs of people lying in the streets and being antisocial. Violent crime apparently is up 286% on the Upper West Side of Manhattan as thieves and criminals are robbing people with weapons. A Facebook group in which residents have shared pictures of men urinating, self-gratifying themselves, keep it family friendly, and laying sprawled out on the sidewalk near the hotels has been set up, and there are other complaints on Twitter. Our community is terrified, angry, and frightened, one organizer of the 1,700-member group, Dr. Megan Martin, told the Post. Well, listen, man, I'm really sorry. I know it's not going to be easy for everybody, but you got to get out of that city, man. You think he's done now? They are burning it to the ground. The homeless were moved from dorm-style accommodation around the city to hotels so they can be housed 1 or 2 to a room in order to protect them from COVID more effectively. Department of Homeless Service Commissioner Stephen Banks said Thursday, in order to defuse that ticking time bomb, we implemented a massive emergency relocation of human beings from those congregate shelters throughout the city, more than 10,000 in about 8 weeks. However, local residents fear the situation around the 3 hotels could be spiraling out of control. Well, it is. It absolutely is. The police, for whatever reason, can't do their jobs, aren't doing their jobs. 600 cops from the anti-crime unit have been relocated. But this is not the worst of it. I'm sorry, reassigned, not relocated, reassigned. So crime is skyrocketing. Yeah, we can laugh and say it sounds like the plot of RoboCop, at least a bit, right? But I wonder, as many people do, is this on purpose? I mean, the point of this segment is to say it seems to be the case. Now, you could argue, like the left probably will, we need to protect these homeless people. People shouldn't die just because they're poor. And if we're trying to help them by giving them shelters and COVID is a problem, we need to relocate them, right? Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that Bill DeBlasio was illegally doing this? What if I told you that everything he was doing, okay, not everything, but a lot of what he was doing was actually against the law? I bring you now to the worst of it. New York City illegally placed Child offenders, I'll say that. I got to keep it family friendly, but you know what I mean when I say it. Near Upper West Side Playground from the New York Post. The city dumped at least 6 homeless diddlers, all still on parole, at a luxury Upper West Side hotel just a block from an elementary school playground. An apparent violation of state law, online records show. Tell me they're not doing this on purpose. They did not have to do that. They did not have to put those people there near a playground, near children. But they did it. I'll tell you what, man, one way to make sure you destroy this city is doing this. Who in their right mind wants to go anywhere near this place now? Nobody's going to want to live there, raise their kids there. New York City, you know, probably it's the biggest. It's one of America's great cities, maybe the greatest. At least it used to be. And now it's a shell of its former self. It is a dried and withered husk. Under the leadership of Bill DeBlasio, he is destroying the lives of regular people. The outrage is only the latest slap in the face to residents of the Manhattan neighborhood, who, as the Post reported, and I talked about this, you know, people pissing all over the place, completely unacceptable. See Sabina Popovich, 32, who was at the playground with her daughter, 5, and son, 1. Well, you need to get your family out of here. Were the mass riots not enough for you? The 6 parolees. I'm not going to read that. These people are disgusting. A 4-year-old girl. I'll just tell you that, man. I'm trying to keep it family friendly. The hotel is just under 1,000 feet from the playground of PS 87, and New York state law bars such high-risk offenders on probation or parole from knowingly entering into or upon schools or other facilities primarily used by children if a minor is present. Courts have interpreted that to mean they must keep 1,000 feet away. Reached for comment on the registry listings showing the men currently live at the Belle Claire. A city rep said Friday, the listings are not accurate and that the names you referenced are not at that location. Asked if the men ever lived at the hotel and why that remained their official address, the rep declined to comment, citing confidentiality rules. And there it is. They're lying. They're lying. They're burning it down. A rep for the state registry said the list reflects the most current information the agency has. The city began quietly moving the homeless into the Belle Claire and other Upper West Side hotels in recent weeks, amid fears its shelters couldn't provide enough pandemic. So no, I don't buy it, man. There are so many ways that New York City could have accommodated the homeless, and putting them in wealthier or middle class areas with families doesn't make sense. Sorry, it doesn't. You got Staten Island, you got Brooklyn, you got Queens, you got the Bronx. You got a lot of space. I mean, Staten Island, not to rag on, not to put the pressure on the people from Staten Island, but couldn't you find a place further out, a bigger facility where you could house these people instead of just saying, I don't know, put them in a luxury hotel in a prominent area of the city where it's going to destroy property values? They're striking at the core of New York's tax base. Around 1% of the population of New York was paying something like 45% of the income taxes, and they're fleeing. So I'll tell you what, man, this was what I believed was happening, that Cuomo and DeBlasio want NYC to burn, figuratively, so that the city and other wealthy industrialists get an opportunity to buy up and snatch up more property, centralizing authority and power in the hands of a few. DeBlasio is as crooked as they come, man. Painting that Black Lives Matter mural in the street is as crooked as you get. And when other people wanted their murals, he said, nope. He did it without approval, without permits. He just took taxpayer funds and made them paint this message for his campaign. And now he's burning the city down. It is a radical, far-left agenda. Do not let these people win. And if you live in New York and you stay, you better vote them out. But I'll tell you what, the people most likely to vote out de Blasio, they fled. The people most likely to fund the opponents of these radical politicians, they fled. What's left? Maybe this is what de Blasio wants. He wants to buy up these properties, but he also wants a radicalized city. Get the moderates and the conservatives out. They, divide the country in such a way that the left becomes the radicals, the far left extremists, the people like AOC. She won her primary. Kind of surprising. I wondered, but this is the Democratic Party now. She could still theoretically lose because 20% of her district is conservative. Maybe that's why Bill de Blasio wanted to burn it all to the ground, because those conservatives are all fleeing. The first people to leave are not going to be the far left. It's going to be the conservatives. It's going to be the people who have the money and take the responsibility, take the individual responsibility to get out and go live somewhere else to get away from these people. Thus, they have given the territory of New York City to the radicals who are doing radical things that destroy it to reshape it in their image. It's been their goal for a long time, and it seems like they're going to get what they want. But November is coming. I don't know when DeBlasio is up for re-election, but I don't know if there'll be people left to vote against him. Maybe there'll be enough regular people, even progressives, who hate the guy who would vote against him. But AOC is probably going to win. I mean, everybody thinks she does. It's possible she doesn't, but I really doubt the Republican takes it. If every single conservative and moderate in that district voted against AOC, she'd lose in a landslide. But I'm not sure they're remaining. Following all of this insanity, the disgusting criminals being placed near playgrounds, who in their right mind would stay in this place? Now, they're going to get out, and many of them already did. That's why Cuomo is begging. DeBlasio doesn't care. It seems to be his goal. Bill DeBlasio is mocking them and shaming them as they leave. He's doing everything in his power to make sure the tax base is eroded, to destroy property value in prominent areas. And I'll tell you what, the way I see it, it's on purpose. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at timcast.net. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.